You're all welcome to today's lesson. My name is Ebenezer, and I'll be the one to go through this speaking lesson with you. As shown here, we are going to learn how to answer part 1 speaking lesson or part 1 speaking questions. Okay, so that's what we are going to go through today. I believe a lot of you have spent a lot of hours studying and then stressing yourself to make sure that you pass this particular test. And when you look at the speaking test, you have a total of about 11 to 14 minutes to put everything into practice. So after going through all the theoretical things that you know, when you get to the hall, you have 11 to 14 minutes for the speaking test. So when you get there, you have to answer a first part of the test because the test has been divided into 3 parts. We have the part 1, the part 2, and 3. And this part 1 is called the interview side, so the introductory section. So you will be having an introductory discussion with the examiner. So in this particular part, we are going to discuss on the overview of the speaking part 1 question, what you can and what you have to do and what you cannot or must not do. Okay, so after that we also learn some approaches that we will use to expand our answers, or we can use to answer these questions. Mind you, some of these things that I'm saying does not only apply to the part 1 question, especially when we get to the approaches. Most of these can also be used for the part 2 and 3. So when you learn this one, you can practice it and it will affect your part 2 and 3 of the speaking test as well. So we start with the overview of the speaking part 1. As I told you, the entire speaking test will take 11 to 14 minutes, but you have 4 to 5 minutes to complete the speaking part 1. 4 to 5 minutes to complete the part 1, and it's generally an interview which you'll be asked. All right, they are simple questions that will be given to you, and then they are about you. So those questions are mostly about you. There are several sets of the question, and mostly you'll be given about 3 sets of these questions, and under them you might be having about 4 different questions under these 3 sets. So in total, you might be given about 12 different questions to answer within the part 1. There are some areas that you can focus on, though remember that you cannot predict what you are going to get in the speaking test. All right, but there are some areas that you can focus on, and then while you learn them, you'll be able to have a good hand. So in the first set of the question, you'll be asked familiar topics that is concerning you, your home, your work, your study, things about you. Okay, so you might be asked questions about you. Other times today might also give you some random questions, which might include something like the weather, clothing, hobbies, right, spaces, food, drinks, and others. So you might be given other set of questions which might not actually be related to your personal self, but it might be things around you, okay, the conditions, the things that you are in. All right, so that is what I'm talking about. So it might be you about about your environment. So remember, the part 1 might be about you or your environment. So these are some of the things that I just wrote, though a lot of them are just some like family, education, finance, work, hometown, as I stated, weather, clothing, the environment, food, drink, sport, a lot. All right, there are a lot of things that you should focus on when you are dealing with it. Now, before I come to what you're supposed to do and what not to do, I want you to also understand that you need to have the understanding of what they are expecting you to do. All right. So when you get to the speaking test, you can use, or you have to express grammar. Remember, we are dealing with the speaking part one, so you have to express some grammatical. You need to express yourself in grammar. Okay. So for most part of the speaking part one, you don't require a lot of tenses. You don't need wide range of tense. Though you still need to prepare yourself for some simple tenses like the present simple tenses, past simple tenses, and also present perfect, future, and all those kind of stuff. You need to prepare yourself in it. And also with the vocabulary, you don't need a complicated kind of vocabulary. All that you need here is an everyday English that you understand, because the speaking part one, and even the speaking part one is an approach, is a friendly approach. Okay, so what you are saying here is like you meeting a friend for the first time, or meeting somebody for the first time, and the person is communicating with you in a friendly manner. You understand? So it's like going for maybe a picnic and you met somebody else and the person is trying to have a conversation with you. So you understand how it is. So the vocabulary here is a very basic everyday vocabulary, and you don't need a lot of academic words. Okay, so what you need to do here is that you need to use vocabulary that's appropriate to the question. Okay, just use vocabulary that's appropriate to the question. Informal words can be used. Okay, informal words can be used. What I would say is that keep it friendly. All right, have a very friendly approach. And there are people who know something about like idioms. All right, idiomatic expressions. If you have idioms, okay, we have been doing all these things on the pages. Sometimes I just post it on our WhatsApp page. So if you have these idioms and you have been studying them or using them in your everyday words, it's good to use it. But if you are not someone who is used to it, please, I'll tell you to just refrain from it. Okay, you can just keep it simple, keep it friendly, and all you need is that you have to make sure you don't make some grammatical errors or vocabulary errors. Okay, pronunciation is right, and that is going to help you a lot. Now, what are the things that you should keep notice when you are approaching a speaking part one question? And with this one, it goes across all the speaking tests, what you are supposed to do, or what you can do and what you cannot do. The first advice I'll give to you is that, first of all, you need to know what you are supposed to do, or you need to know what to expect when you walk into the room. You need to know how the exam is, and also what you're going to expect when you walk into the room. When you come in and sit down in the room, one thing I'll tell you is that everything that you need to know you would be informed, and all that you need to approach the exam will be given to you. So your worry should be on what you are going to say when you are asked any question, especially in the actual test. So any kind of approach, any kind of steps that you need to go through, or that they want to know from you before they start the exam will be given to you, right? So your identification card, everything. They will tell you the process before you go through. So don't worry about any extra thing. What you need to focus on is what you're going to say when the examiner asks you any question. The second advice I'll give to you, and what you're supposed to do, is to answer the question. Answer the question. That is, be direct. All right? Directly answer the question. Don't beat about the bush. Don't be going around the question. When he asks you that, do you like cold drink, and your answer is positive, you would say, I prefer drinking cold taking cold drinks, or yeah, I prefer taking cold drinks. All right. So you have to answer the question. You need to respond to it. It's part of your criteria. If you don't respond to the question, no matter what explanation you will give, your answer or that particular part will be marked down, which is your task response will be marked down. You need to answer the question. So that is what I'm saying. Any kind of question given to you, you should answer it. All right. So that's one thing you should know. Now, it's okay when you give negative answers. It's okay to give a negative answer. This is not an ethical exam. This is an English test. So for instance, if they ask you that, is education important? Is schooling good? And maybe you don't like school. Don't say that. Don't go about saying, yeah, I like school, just because you don't want the examiner to be furious or be angry. He's not there to mark your personality. He's there to listen to your English. Okay, so if you think that education is not the right thing, you can just go about saying, no, I think education is one of the problems in this world. People should not go to school. So you should come up, and it's okay to say something negative. Don't worry about how the examiner will look at you, the facial grimace of the examiner, whether he will smile or he will frown. Don't think about that. That is not what you should be thinking about. So it's okay to say a negative or to give a negative answer. Now, for instance, you were given a particular question, and as you are approaching the question, you might have forgot something, or maybe you answered it incorrectly, and then they've moved on to the next question. Please, my advice to you is to forget what you said earlier and move on. That is, be in the present. All right, be in the present at all time. Don't worry about what you have said earlier, and then try to think about it too much. Otherwise, it will affect the way you will be saying or you'll be speaking. It will be affecting what you'll be saying, your grammatical expression. It will affect everything. So try as much as possible to be in the present. Forget about what you said earlier and then move on. Just be focused on what you are saying now. The next thing that I'll tell you that you can correct yourself. For instance, you made a particular vocabulary error, or you said something wrongly, or some grammar mistakes was made when you were approaching the question. In that instant, you can say sorry and then correct it. Or you can choose not to even say sorry. You can just put the right word there. All right. So Kofi went to school yesterday. So you said Kofi go to school yesterday. You can say Kofi go to school yesterday. Oh, okay. Sorry. Kofi went to school yesterday. All right. So that is correcting yourself. It's accepted. Nevertheless, don't let it to be too much, because if it becomes too much, it will affect your score. So just take note of that. All right. And it's also acceptable for you to tell the examiner to restate a question or reframe it in a way that you would understand. All right. So you cannot tell the examiner to explain what he has said, but you can tell the examiner to rephrase the question. All right. The reason is that maybe he said something that he made a particular statement, and the word that he used was very sophisticated, so you did not really understand the question. So you can say that, can you be a little bit clearer, right? So the examiner will be able to just restate it for you, right? But you cannot tell the examiner that, examiner, please, can you just change this question for me? I'll come there, all right? Or yeah, something like that. So you cannot, but you can tell the examiner to restate or to even repeat the question, especially if you did not hear. You can tell the examiner to repeat the question. Now, these are some of the things. There are several other things that you should know. Like you should take deep breath before beginning. Is all technical approaches that you should know. All right. So yeah, when you're approaching them, these are some of the things that you can do. Now, what are the things that you should not do? I told you to answer the question, but you should not give too short answers. All right. What is your favorite meal? And you said fufu. Remember, they are there to mark you based on your pronunciation, grammatical error, grammatical expression, vocabulary, answering the question itself. Okay? So these things will be marked. But if I ask you a question, what is your favorite meal? And you state fufu, I can't mark expression in a single word. I can't mark your vocabulary in a single word. So don't give too short answers. It will affect all these scores. But because I say you should not give too short answers, doesn't mean that you should give too long answers. All right? Don't give too long answers. When your speech becomes too long, one, you might make a lot of mistakes in there. Secondly, you might be stopped by the examiner because you have just 4 to 5 minutes to finish the whole part 1 question. So giving too long answers will let the examiner be stopping you, and you might be getting frustrated just because of those stops, right? So you might be getting, so you can give in a very reasonable length. Okay, you can give answers in reasonable length. Okay, so that is what you should know. The third thing is that don't memorize answers. Please, this is one of the serious things you should never do. Don't memorize answers. Okay, so for those who go about on the internet, get questions and begin to memorize the answers of the people who wrote. Okay, so they begin to memorize all those answers and begin to say it. You know, when you memorize a question and you are speaking, because that particular statement is not yours. Because that particular statement or idea is not yours, it affects your fluency. It affects the way you even coordinate and even your way you express yourself. So the examiners they are skilled, so they are able to fish out and know those who have actually memorized the answers. All right, so don't put yourself into any trouble. For if you do that, if you memorize an answer, you are not going to get anything more than 4 or band 4. I think if you memorize answers, you can get about band 1 and it will be taken out. All right, so don't even think about it. Just learn. When you study, you can just go about having more expressive. You can know the topics or study some topics. The more you are just talking about it, answering those questions, and even building yourself in other sectors like grammar, vocabulary, expression, taking off fear in speech, you'll be able to answer every question. And remember, speaking part 1, it's a friendly talk, so you don't need to worry about a lot of things. Okay, so that is one thing you should know. And for instance, if you are talking and then the examiner stops you, don't worry about it too much. All right, you're just keeping up with the time, so don't worry about when the examiner stops you or tells you or give another or go to the next question when you are talking. So the examiner is on a very tight time schedule. They have been given a time. All right, so when you are talking in the speaking part 1, the part 1 question should be at a minimum length. All right, this should be just some short, about at most about 3 sentences is okay. You don't need to talk too much. All right, so because they are in a very tight time schedule, they may interrupt you in order to keep the test on pace. All right, they want to actually keep the test on pace. So if you are talking too much, the examiner will just go on to the next question. And please don't worry when it happens that way. Don't come out and say the examiner was rude or maybe he did not like you. No. they are on a tight pace and they need to finish those questions. So one thing you should also not do when you are a student is that don't try to study for every question or every topic before you go there. The questions given to you they'll be personal, there'll be things around you. Clear your mind. That's what I'll tell you. Relax. All right. And answer the question in a way that you know, because the way you speak your English will reflect there. You can't say anything about anything than what you know. So don't try to learn every kind of topic before you go. You will not have any idea of what type of question that you are going to get, but that doesn't mean that you should study every kind of question. It shouldn't matter. All right. So all the topics can be related to your life and things around you. So they will be personal. There'll be things close. So all you need to do is that you should know how to express yourself. That is all. I always tell my students, learn to express yourself. Learn to be dynamic with your speech. Learn to think wide. All right. So that is all. Just take it like a friend who you met for the first time, and both of you want to establish some rapport. You want to just know each other properly. So when he asks you a question, I don't think you fret. I don't think you become afraid to answer. Express yourself. Give what you have, and that will be all. What you need to think about and what you need to actually build is your correct vocabularies you need to use, and also the grammar expressions mostly. Don't be making mistakes in grammar. All right, so that is what you should know. All right, and then I think the last one that I would say is that you can't tell the examiner to give you like another question. So, examiner, I can't answer this question. Please, can you give me another one? No, it can't be done. If you don't know what to say, I think I'll come that side. Sometimes you might be asked an unfamiliar question that you have no idea about. All right, so you should know how to answer unfamiliar questions. All right, you should learn how to answer unfamiliar questions as well. All right, let's go on. Now, we've been able to know what to do and everything. We are going to examine the 10 ways that we will use to approach the tax 1 questions. The purpose of this is to help us express ourselves and also not to repeat words too much, okay? Because in the speaking test, you need to have a wide range of vocabulary. And to do that, you need to know how to express yourself. Having a wide range of vocabulary here doesn't mean that you should go for big words. What it means is that you should know how to answer a question in a context without repeating same ideas or words. So it can be simple words that you are using, but it should be in a way that the person understands, but you're not repeating same ideas or words all the time. And secondly, it's good for you to just say some of them again, but not all the time. All right. So you should be having all this. So how do we express ourselves, or how do we approach these questions? And the second purpose is that I told you that you cannot just give one word, or you can't just give like a short answer. So how do we extend our answer? So these 10 ways will help you to approach the questions in order not to give repetitive answers, and also not be giving too short answers that might affect you. All right, so let's go about them one after the other. Now, our first method is to provide reasons. Okay, so if you get the question, or if you are given the question, after answering it, you give further reason to it. I would say the basic connective word that we use is because, but there are other words you can use to express reason. All right, so that is the first way. You just have to answer the question first, because I told you need to answer the question, and then after that you give the reason you said that. So this is our question, our sample question for that. which states that, do you enjoy outdoor activities? Don't just say that, yes, I enjoy outdoor activities and leave it that way. Okay? So you can give some expressive answers or extended responses like this. You can state that, yes, I enjoy outdoor activities, specifically hiking. Why? Because, so you can see I use the word because here, because of the fresh air and challenge that comes with it. It makes me feel alive. Okay, so you can see that I use the word because to extend the answer. I use the word because just to combine both of them, my actual answer and the reason I enjoy that. So that is one thing you can do. You can just give the reason for having that particular thing you are doing. Now, the second approach is to use personal experiences. You can use your personal experience. So maybe you have been given a particular question and then you have had an experience with it before. You can answer the question and then further give your personal experience with it. Right, let's answer that. Now, for a sample question is asked that, have you ever traveled abroad? Right? So don't just say that, yes, I have traveled abroad. We've been going through this and I've already told you. Don't give short answer, I've traveled abroad. All right. You can state that, yes, I have traveled abroad. Last year, I had the opportunity to visit Japan. It was an incredible experience to immerse myself in a completely different culture and explore historic landmarks in the country. So this particular side shows that this is not something I'm saying about someone else. It's my personal experience. So you can see that I've used my experience to extend my answer. All right. So yes, I have traveled abroad. And then this is my personal experience with it. I visited Japan last year. It was an incredible experience to immerse myself in a completely different culture and explore historic landmarks in the country. So you can use a personal experience to also extend your answer. All right, let's go to the other type. So they are all important. Keep note of them and practice them as we go on. Let's go on to the next one. The third type, or the third way you can also express yourself or extend your answer, is the use of preferences and opinions. Preferences and opinions. So this time you can choose or you can state which one you like, or you can give a stand, right? You can give a stand. So that is one way you can go about with it. So let's go to the sample question. What kind of movie do you enjoy watching? So don't just say that I enjoy watching action movie, especially if you like action movie. Don't just say that I enjoy watching action movie and leave it. Right? You can go further. You can state that personally. So, right, preferring. Personally, I prefer. So you can see that I use preferences. Prefer to. All right. So I use that just to show what I like or my opinion on those kind of two things. So I prefer action movies to other types. All right. So I prefer action movie to any other type. All right. So here it's called something like an inference, right? I'm just using the other type to also go for the other kinds of movies. Okay. So I prefer action movie to any other type. So I'd not bring the word movie because the person will be able to infer. The person can think about, okay, the other type is also talking about other kinds of movies. All right. So that is also one way you can use to paraphrase or you avoid repetition. And you can see here that I'd not go about saying that when he asked the question, what kind of movie do you enjoy watching? I'd not say I enjoy watching, right? I'd not repeat the word enjoy watching again. Okay, so you can also paraphrase the question itself in order not to repeat yourself all the time. So I just stated, I prefer action movie, right? So do you enjoy? I prefer. Do you enjoy? I prefer action movie to other type or any other type. All right, let's go on. Now, I'm giving my preferences and opinion. So I continue by stating the adrenaline rush I get from the intense fight scenes and thrilling chase sequences keeps me on the edge of my seat. One of my favorite action movie is Mad Max Fury Road because of its stunning visuals and non-stopping excitement. Please don't worry about the words I'm using here. Okay, just keep yours simple. If you cannot, don't, that's what I'm talking about. Don't memorize answers. Don't go about memorizing these ones when you are asked the question. If you do that, the examiners will know you are memorizing. Keep yours simple. If you like Kumawood movies, just state that you like Kumawood movies because it's funny and the actors in are hilarious. You can just think that they say it's funny, and also it keeps you from all these worries of life. So it's just keep yours natural. That's what I would say. Nevertheless, it's not about the truth. Okay, so the answers you give, the examiners are not marking the content of the answer. They are not marking the truthfulness of the answer. Okay, so they are not checking that this particular answer you gave is more viable than the other, or let me say it holds more value than this. No, that's not what they are checking. They are checking your grammar, they are checking vocabulary, they are checking the way you express yourself, they are checking your pronunciation, they are checking whether you answered the question. That is what they are checking. So the content of it is not actually the key. They are not looking at it. So don't say that, okay, this particular question I'm saying, this particular thing I want to say, I have not done it before. It has not actually come to mind. So I don't know whether I should. If you have a way you can just I wouldn't say lie, but yes, let me use that word. If you have a way you can just lie about it, but say it in a way that is natural, it's fine. What I would say is that keep your tone natural and express yourself. That is what I would say. So be expressive and then go about with the answers. Now, we have known the third way. Now let's go to the number 4. You can also provide examples. All right, you can provide examples. So after answering the question, you can give further examples, or you can give alternative. So other way. All right, so let's look at an example. So this is a sample example or sample question. What is your favorite type of music? So don't just say that I like high life. Right, so I like high life. What's your favorite type of movie? I like high life. Right, you answer it, but you have a lot that they'll be deducting from you, and you will not get the score that you need. All right, so you need to express yourself in it. You need to extend your answer. So extending your answer, you can also go about using examples or providing examples or alternative. You can state that I really enjoy let me go on. You can state that I really enjoy listening to Ghanaian high life music. Right? Now, after answering the question, the second thing that will help me to extend my answer is to provide an example. So you can see here, let me exit all these drawings. So you can see here that I used something like this. Right? So I used let me exit all this drawing. Now you can use a word like this, like, right? So I gave an example. For instance, you can have a word like for instance, okay, as one word that you can use to show example. The other word I used was like. There are other ways there are other words that you can use to show examples. So let me start again. I really enjoy listening to Ghanaian high life music. Artists like Kofi Kinata and Sarkodie are among my favorites. Okay, so I use these two artists and I use them as an example to extend my answers. Is that okay? So that is how you can also extend your answers when you are going about with the IELTS speaking part 1. You can show example or provide example. So after answering my question, I further give an example. I really enjoy listening to Ghanaian high life music. Artists like Kofi Kinata and Sarkodie are my favorites. All right, you can also use alternatives. You can choose not, after you have just stated it, you can choose to use alternatives by continually saying that. However, I also appreciate other genres like rock and jazz. For example, so you can see here, I use this connective word for example. And the first one I used like. Okay, so for example, when I'm in the mood for something more mellow, right? I often listen to artists like Norah Jones and John Mayer. All right, so these are some of the ways that you can use to extend your answers using examples and alternatives. And I believe that if you keep practicing them, right, you study them, you practice them one after the other, there is a possibility you have a very high tendency to achieve the score that you need. Now let's go on to our next type. Now we've gone to the third and the fourth type. Let's go to the next one. The number 5, or the fifth method, is the use of compare and contrast. You can also compare and contrast. So you can compare the elements, all right, given to you in the question, and also sometimes you can also contrast. You can use contrast words like however, but, okay, yeah. So you can use those ones too, right? So and is also a comparison. You can use something like and, right? It's also a comparison. But if you are contrasting, you can use a word like but, however, okay. So that is also one way. So there are other ways you can use for comparison and contrast, which I believe you can go about studying. So let's look at a sample question. Do you prefer to study alone or in a group? Do you prefer to study alone or in a group? So when you ask this question, don't just say, I prefer to study alone, especially if you want to. So, I prefer to study alone, and that's all. Okay, but you'll be marked down. Yes, they'll mark you some part of it, but you won't get the needed score that you have. So you can extend your answer by comparing these two, either studying alone or in a group. Or you can contrast them. You can start with the one that you can just contrast them. So I just gave an answer like this. I choose. So you can see that here I use something like preference. So I choose. So that is my preference. So in my opinion, I like to study alone. So I choose to study alone. And this part 2, I added another method, which is the use of reason that we studied before. So I choose here in the use of preference, and I use the word because, all right, to also show reason. Okay, so sometimes all these ways of extending your answers can be used together. That's what you should know. So I choose to study alone because it allows me to focus. It allows me to focus better and set my own pace. However, there are times when studying in a group can be beneficial, especially when preparing for a group project. So this shows that I am actually comparing the studying alone and that of a group, right? So I chose that I like to study alone, but there are also times when studying in a group can also be beneficial. So this is how you can also use comparison and contrasting when you are solving or when you are answering a part 1 question in speaking. All these are to prepare you on how you can extend your answers and to express yourself when you are giving any question. Now let's look at the next one, which will be the number 6. So this time we can also use benefits or drawback, or we can show the advantages and disadvantages of something, and that one also help us to extend our answers. Let's go on. So we use the question like, do you prefer living in a big city? So you have been asked this question, do you like to live in a big city? Don't just say that living in a big city will give me a lot of job opportunities. Okay, so don't just say yes, or living in a big city will just provide me with a lot of job opportunities and then stop there. You can state that yes, I like to stay in big cities. So you can see here, I've not used the word prefer to live. All right, I used the word to stay. So I like to stay in the city. Big cities are often economic places with lot of industries, okay, which means there are more career options to choose from. So I'm now talking about the benefit of living in the city. What if you don't like to live in the city? So as I stated, it's not all the time that you give an affirmative, or you can give a positive answer. All right, so you can give a negative answer to it too as well, and with that one too, you can use the drawback or the disadvantage of living in a big city. All right, so it's all okay. What you need is to express yourself and being able to answer the question correctly. As I stated, the content of what you say does not matter. One answer, we can't say that one answer is better than the other. The only way we used to compare is the way you said it, okay, how you expressed it, the words you used, and also any error that you made. That's the only thing that we use to compare. But the content of it and the idea of it is not considered. Now let's go to the number 7. We can also mention relevant statistics. So you can use numbers and frequency. So the number of times you did something, all right, or how many times you do something. You can even use statistics like percentage or numbers or amounts just to express yourself in it. So let's look at an example. So for instance, you are asked, how often do you exercise? How often do you exercise? And let's say that you hit the gym, or you go to the gym twice a week. So you don't just say that I exercise twice a week, right? You can extend your answers by using relevant statistics, right? And also involving frequency, that is the number of times you do something, to also help you extend your answers. I've used some of the key things that showed the statistics. I'm just bolding it so you can see them here. So I stated that I exercise 2 times a week to maintain a healthy lifestyle. So you can see I used another word here to show because, right, to show reason, right? So it's also from what we studied so far. I exercise 2 times a week to maintain a healthy lifestyle. I participate in my community 10-kilometer charity race on Tuesdays, right? Then I jog in the park either on Friday or Saturday at 7 a.m. So you can see I'm using numbers and other things to also expect, like 2, 10 kilometers, 7 a.m., Fridays and Tuesdays, right? 2 times a week, right? So sometimes you can use word like often, right? Often, yeah, to show the number of times. 2 times, twice, thrice, once. There are other words you can use to show frequency. So these are also used. You can also use these to also extend your answers. Let's go to the 8th. That is, we will use. We can also discuss the future. So we can use future plans and what you are thinking about doing in the future to also extend our answer. Let's look at an example. Do you enjoy cooking? Maybe you have been asked, do you enjoy cooking? This is one repetitive response you can give. Yes, I enjoy cooking. Or no, I don't like to cook. or I don't enjoy cooking. So enjoy cooking, enjoy cooking. It's good for you to, you can do that. You can repeat the words, but you can also paraphrase them. And secondly, don't just give a single sentence answer or just one word answer like this one and leave it there, right? So I've already stated that. So yes, I enjoy cooking. Is you can't just say that and leave it. You can give a standard response like, yes, I enjoy preparing meals. In fact, now you know I've answered the question. I want you to take notice of that. First, I answered my question, and that is one thing you should not leave. Yes, I enjoy preparing meals. That was definitely the first thing you should do. Answer the question. Now, I'm going to use other things to also extend my answer. And this time I'm using future plans or aspirations. Why do I enjoy cooking? And what is my future plan in cooking? So I stated that, in fact, I am planning to develop my culinary skills further by taking some cooking classes in future. I can just stop here and that is okay. So it tells me what I'm going to do in future. I can also talk about aspirations and goals. I can go on by stating that my goal is to learn how to prepare authentic dishes from different cultures, like the Thai curries or Italian pasta from scratch. So you can just stop, even just stop at this point, and that will be fine, right? Or you can just go further. But what we are discussing in the idea I want you to have here is that you can give a future plan or aspiration to also extend your answers when you are solving the question. All right, so we will now go on to our last 2 points, and that will be all for today. So in the 9th point, or the 9th way you can go about extending your answer, is to involve the senses. So you can use the senses, your speech, or the smell, the sight, right? The feel, which is on the skin, all right? So the taste, you can use these things. Like when you're asked a question, you can think about how it feels, the way your body felt when you got to the place, or what you saw with your eyes, all right? How you tasted it and how it felt on your tongue, your skin. So you can use all these senses to also answer the question. After you have given your answer, you can use these senses to also extend it. And as I stated, all these are not just, they are not only for the part 1, though I stated that we are dealing with part 1, but these can also be used for the part 2 and 3. It does not matter. All you need is to know how to practice them and get used to them. So sample question like, what is your favorite holiday destination? So if you want to go on holidays, what would be your favorite holiday destination? Where would you want to go? So this repetitive response was like, my favorite holiday destination is the beach. And that was all, right? And I told you these like favorite holiday destination, right? They'll be marking you down on these repetitions. So try to also paraphrase the words, paraphrase the question sometimes. Don't be giving these ones. Now let's look at the extended answer. I would like to go to the beach. So I would like to go to the beach on my holidays. So favorite holiday, I would like to go to the beach on my holidays, right? Now there is something incredibly relaxing about the sound, right? So I'm using the sense like sound, the sound of waves crashing against the shore. So it tells me what I'm hearing. I'm using my sense. So crashing against the shore, the sound of the waves crashing against the shore, and the feeling of warmth, that is my skin, right? Feeling of warmth, feeling of warm sand beneath my feet. Feeling of warm sand beneath my feet. So you can see here, I'm using my senses to also answer this question. So what is your favorite holiday destination? To me, I think the best place that I would like to go is the beach, right? Because there is something incredibly relaxing about the sound of waves crashing against the shore and the feeling of warm sand that goes beneath my feet. So I'm using my senses to tell the examiner how I feel about going on holidays at the beach. All right, so that is one way you can also use to extend your answer. Now let's go to the last one, which will be our 10th method or our 10th way of expressing ourselves. And the last one will be to discuss current trend or development. Discussing current trend or development. So you can be asked the question, and when you are asked, you can use currently what is going on, or currently what is going on, things that is happening now. Okay, so if you're updated, you can use things that is happening now, right, to also choose. So you can see that we have been talking about future, we have been talking about past. You can also go about with the now, like what is happening now, the things that is going on now, the trends and development is happening. So you can also use that one to also answer the questions. And there's a sample question given. How do you keep up with the latest news? So repetitive response was like, I keep up with the latest news through the social media. We've discussed it. All right. So you can go about doing it the second thing. So with the external response, I stated that I don't miss trending news. So latest news, trending. So I don't miss trending news because I have access to sites, right, and other social media through the internet. I make it a point to read reputable news websites and subscribe to reliable news outlets newsletters. So I listen to this I listen to things on the internet, or I watch things on the internet. I have access to websites and social media platforms. I subscribe to reliable news and others. So it shows my current update, how updated I am on latest news. So these are some of the ways that you can go about with things. Now, I stated that these points are not only related to the part 1. You can also use these ways to also extend your answers in the part 2 and 3. All right, so this comes to the end of today's lesson. It has been a very long lesson, but I believe you actually enjoyed it. I would like you to practice together with somebody. You can find anyone that you think you can practice with. You can get questions on part 1 and then try to work your hands on them. Practice together with the person. Use these methods and work on them. The more you do, the better you become. The more you do, the better you become, because you get used to it and then it comes out naturally. Okay, so you can do that, and I believe it will help you. All right, today this is all that you would be hearing from me. You will also come up again in our next webinar and explore on other things that we will be doing. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like it, share to others, write your comments down, tell us what you want us to discuss in our next session, okay? And we'll be grateful to also help you with it. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and that will also help us a lot.